To help with your applications, it's useful to look at how shortlisting works. So a shortlisting procedure is how an organisation will agree who gets through to interview, which is the goal of your application. It's important to think about that. This is to give somebody a reason to want to speak to you. So before this has even gone out to advert, they'll agree the job description and the person specification, which is essentially the system by which they're going to score you. Think of it a little bit like a marking criteria, okay? Then once they've got all of those applications in, they'll look at each application and systematically score all of those criteria for that applicant. This is why applications are a bit of a science. You've got to think about how am I scoring on the specific things they've asked for. And then the panel will essentially agree between them who gets to interview. This is how the process works. And the good news is they actually give you a cheat sheet to essentially make the most of this process and almost game it. And that takes the form of the job description and the person specification. These are really important documents, and these are the things that are going to help you with your application and help you prepare for interview. But they are different documents. The job description is essentially that it describes what the job is. And what this does is allows candidates to what we call self-select. They can look at that job and think, okay, is this something I actually want to do? It communicates the expectations, standards of performance, what you're actually going to be doing day to day as part of that job. Now, this is useful, certainly, but it's not the thing that you are going to be relying on. The thing you are going to be relying on is what we call the person specification. The person spec describes the ideal candidate. It literally covers everything that they want from someone who's going to do this job. The key skills, the knowledge, the experience, what qualifications they're going to require, personal attributes, that kind of thing. What it does is it lists these in quite often two separate sections. Essential, which means you absolutely have to cover this to even get a whiff of an interview, and desirable, the nice to haves, the things that will make you stand out that little bit more. And this is the thing that is used in shortlisting. This is the thing that you are going to essentially be marked against. More often than not, this will be available to you on the apply section of the application. It will be given to you. If it's not, then it's perfectly reasonable to ask for it, and if they don't have one, you're going to have to use the job description and infer from things like prospects what they are going to be asking for. But always look at the person specification in the first instance. And here we've got examples of the two documents with the person spec on the right, job description on the left, and you'll see how they're different. And if you look at the person specification, they've done it in bullet point format. So essentially, you know, when you are writing your application, you need to be ticking off each of those bullet points. Am I demonstrating this enough? Am I evidencing this enough in my answers or in my supporting statement, whatever it might be? This is why it is so useful. It gives you that cheat sheet. This tells you exactly what they are looking for from your application. They might ask for this evidence with specific questions, which we'll look at in another section of the video. However, they might also ask for what's called a supporting statement. This is essentially where they will ask a simple question. Please explain how you fit the key criteria of this post. We quite often see these in public sector roles, but it's becoming more and more common in lots of different roles. It's different from a personal statement in that what you're expected to do is, for each of those bullet points, you need to give specific evidence of how you fit that criteria. So you really need to focus on the person specification when you are doing this. The thing that people get tripped up on with supporting statements is quite often what they will do is, especially if they've done an essay subject, they will write a piece of prose. That is a way to do it, but the most successful way to do it is think about the actual person reading it. What's going to make it easy for them? So instead of writing that piece of prose and relying too much on the employer's bandwidth to go through and think, how does this person match this bullet point? lay your supporting statement out essentially against those bullet points. Each bullet point becomes a paragraph in your supporting statement. You demonstrate that skill, you give evidence of that skill or experience, then you move on to the next one. So almost as though they are going through paragraph by paragraph and then ticking off a point on that person spec for you. It makes it easy for them, and it gives you much more of a chance of getting through to that next stage. A lot of application writing is about making it easy for the employer, making it easy for them to make that decision. Yes, we want to interview this person. The reason you want to do it that way is again because of how companies are shortlisting. They'll use something like this, a selection grid, and you'll see that on the top they've got all the skills and experience they're looking for from a candidate. This is lifted directly from a person specification. And then on the left hand side, all the names of the people that have applied, all the applications they're going through. For each of these skills, they will give you a score. I've used 1 to 4 here, it might be 1 to 5, 1 to 10, doesn't matter. Because at the end of this process, all those scores get added up, and the highest scores are the ones that get through to interview. Think of it a little bit like a game or a marking scheme, right? The goal of the game is to get invited to interview. To do that, you've got to make sure you're getting the highest scores. Now, again, like I said in the previous video, this can be a bit daunting, but if you practice at this, if you get good at it, you understand what an employer is looking for, you get support from, let's say, the career service. We can help with all of this, of course. You can get good at this process and be reliably getting through to the interview stage. That's the hardest part of all of this. And if you can do this well, then you can use this as an opportunity to get rid of most of your competition. That brings me to the end of this section. Coming up, we'll be looking at how you can actually give that evidence. We'll be looking at key techniques to answer those questions and construct those paragraphs that get you through to the next stage.